This is Nattering with E with your host, Eric Friedlander. What up, world? It's your boy E coming at you from the Nattering with E studios. Just letting you know, if you'd ever like to come on an episode to Natter with E, totally get a hold of me. You can reach us on the Nattering with E Instagram page, my personal Twitter, E_Freeds, or if you just somehow see me on the street or in person and say, hey E, I would love to be on the show, we'll make it work. Alright, cool. A Nattering with E solo production, The Vietnam War and Music, 1955 to 1975.
Hey, this is David.
Hey, this is Eric.
Hey, this is SJ.
90s Nostalgia Hour. What up, world? It's your boy E coming at you from the Nattering with E studios. That's right. After a couple months, actually probably about a month since I recorded with Joe, I am back. I am hoping to do this way more often. I've missed every chance to podcast. I've missed just hanging out. You know, it's great mental relief. And I realized something. As Nattering with E, this may sound egotistical, but I am the brand. And if I'm not around, what is? Anyways, what I am thinking of doing is chilling, thrilling, just thinking about all things. The plan is literally to record every single day and then go from there. Tomorrow, I might actually have my pal High Five Tom come on the show. We've been planning this for a while. You might remember that name from ROH Revelry. Tom and Will put on a great podcast, and sometimes our co-host Brendan, who's sometimes on here, also hops on their podcast. He's considered the unofficial third man for most of these podcasts within our little universe of friends. So, should be good. We're going to be talking about The Punisher. 2004, Thomas Jane plays Frank Castle, a retired undercover member of the FBI whose family is slaughtered by a drug lord named, I think it's Hank something. Anyways, so the plan tomorrow is to review the podcast. Is to review the movie, The Punisher, with Tom, and we shall go from there. It'll be fantastic. It might run 2 hours, it might run 3 hours, who the hell knows? But yeah, if you're back listening to the pod, thank you. If you're new to the pod, thank you. And we're gonna go back to a bunch of different ideas that I've had. For instance, we're gonna do the history of the Vietnam War through music, 1955 to 1975. I think we're going to focus as much on the battles as we are on the music, meaning to say I may get friends or potentially if I can track down any experts on the war in Vietnam, we'll get them on the podcast and we'll talk about the battles. We'll also talk about the music, the Animals, Bob Dylan, Jimi Hendrix, there's a ton of like Americana music, and I'm going to try and track down some Canadian content too, because I live in Canada, so should be able to mention that as well. So yeah, that should be good. Underscores may come back with Joe on and off. I don't know how consistent that one will be, but it'll be pretty frequent. I'm going to try and continue on with the podcast on my own. Just coming up with various different ideas. Some might be wrestling, some might be just talking about music. What I may do is record the thought process behind the blog posts that I come up with. I used to write a beer blog called Doodle Brews 24, and I kind of want to bring that back because I'm still paying for the .com, but I haven't written in over 2 years. The other thing is I want to get Three Cheers rolling again. I kind of consider Nattering with E the talking version of Three Cheers. Three Cheers is my blog that I put the music reviews on, sports, and things like that. So I'm really hoping to bring that back as well. just to keep busy. Work's been insane recently. I I can't delve into too much detail on that, but it's just been very busy, long hours. And is it worth it? I wonder. But is it not worth it? It's definitely worth it because got to pay those bills, man. Got to pay those bills. Speaking of the Bills, Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen, not good this week. As I record this, it's November 18th at 3:15 p.m. Bills haven't played yet, but Josh Allen, turnover machine. He's got a ton of interceptions. They even fired the offensive coordinator to say, you know what, it's not Josh, it's the way the offense is being run. It's not his fault. And Bills not doing well. I remember as a kid, my dad got me into sports, and so he got me into the Buffalo Bills. And I loved Doug Flutie from the CFL, but then when he went to the Bills, they barely played him. Although he almost won them a couple of playoff games, and it was fantastic. The other thing, I'm now a Cincinnati Bengals fan because of how the way they treated Doug Flutie. If the Bills had been good to Doug Flutie and given him a chance to prove that he's a good quarterback in the NFL, maybe I'd be a Bills fan still for the last 25 years. However, they were bad to him, so I went to my team, the Cincinnati Bengals. After years of futility through bad quarterbacks, Kelly Smith, I love you, but you were a bad man. John Kitna, okay. Carson Palmer, I loved in college, and I loved for part of his time in Cincy. Near the end, he turned into a real. We can't really say that word on the air, but if you think of a word, just know that's the one that maybe I was referring to. As he winded down his time with the Cincinnati Bengals. We got Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket, who does not look like Joe, our co-host on the Underscores, but I mean, maybe Joe just needs to learn how to throw a football. I hope he listens to this so he can laugh at that. And now we have Joe Burrow, former LSU Heisman Trophy winner, national title winner, first overall pick. Great resume. His nickname is Joe Burr or Joe Cool because he excels under pressure. However, this year's been a nightmare. He got a big contract in the offseason, 5 years, $250 million. I think 225 of that guaranteed or something like that. Like, imagine having all that money being like 24 and no responsibilities. Like, holy smokes. Like, I bet you he didn't have student loans even because he was a star quarterback. So I'm sure it was scholarship or he had like an endorsement under the table that could pay that off. Even still, once he got his first contract where they're giving him $36 million a year, that he literally said to the media when he came into the league, I'm putting my regular paychecks in my savings account and I'm just going to live off my endorsements. And like, I guess that is cool because who can say that? Like, hey man, I'm making $36 million a year. I'm only 22 years old and I throw a football. To be fair, not knocking throwing a football or anything because it is a really tough job considering how bad the offensive line's been for the last since Achilles Smith, I'd say they've been bad. So as long as I've watched the Bengals, they have been terrible. They've had a terrible offensive line. Although a couple of years ago, they did go to the Super Bowl with makeshift like fourth string offensive line, which goes to show you that like if you can prevent your quarterback from getting sacked 9 times and cut it down to maybe 4, you do, and your quarterback's Joe Burrow, you do have a chance at going to the Super Bowl. But yeah, anyways, back to Joe Burrow this year. He signs the big contract, $250 million over 5 years. Trouble is, during training camp, pulls his calf, and like Bengals go 0-3 with him at the helm to start the season because he literally part of the thing that makes him so great is that not only can he pass for 3,000 yards, but he can also rush for like 1,000. So seeing that he was unable to run was like it was basically giving the other team an advantage because your quarterback can't move. His offensive line gives him no time to get the ball out of his hand. And if he can't scramble, the reason it works and why they've been good the last 2 years is because he could scramble. He'd still lead the league in sacks, which he did the last 2 years. One was 59 and one was 79 times that he was sacked, excluding the playoffs. But he could scramble too. So even though he was getting sacked like 9, 10 times a game because of how bad the offensive line was, he was able to scramble out and still win football games and march down the field. Like it was insane. That guy takes so much abuse on his legs that it's no surprise that during the offseason he pulled his calf, bad calf string during OTAs, which is like preseason. It's when the team practices prior to it's like training camp before they get ready for the exhibition games, basically. But anyways, during one of those drills, he pulled his calf. I've pulled my calf many a time, partially because out of shape, also partially because I don't know, maybe I just sleep funny. But if a guy who has no sports capability at all can feel pain with a pulled calf, I can imagine what it's doing to basically a cyborg, because these let's be real here, these athletes are not human. They train so much that they are just not human at all. So if someone not human, for the purpose of this argument, if someone not human is suffering the way that Joe Burrow did with his calf, then I basically would need a new leg, or at least 4 new legs, to put it in perspective. So season got off to a rough start, but then once his calf started to heal, it seemed like Bengals were in good shape. They went from being 0-3 to 5-4 going into this past Thursday's game against the Baltimore Ravens, who are really good this year. But like, hey, who knew if Lamar Jackson was healthy that the Ravens would be amazing? Because each of the last 3 years he's been injured, and they've ended up missing the playoffs because while Travis Huntley, I think his name is a good quarterback, he's no Lamar Jackson, basically. And the AFC North is just one of the toughest divisions ever. So not having a good quarterback or you're a good quarterback playing injured, but just not a recipe for success. Shout out to my friend Corey Erdman, who's a Cleveland Browns fan. The reason I'm shouting him out is because he knows exactly what I'm going through after this past Thursday for my team. What I mean for me is that on top of the strained calf, Joe Burrow broke his wrist this past week during a play against the Baltimore Ravens. So he's done for the season. The Bengals are now 5-5, getting killed 34-20 because they just couldn't compete after Burrow went down. And so the team's in trouble. But like, just for this year, I'm gutted for Burrow because he's been injured basically the entire year, and he still somehow got them 5 wins, which is crazy. I think the rest of the team around him is pretty good. Like, he's got Boyd, Higgins, Irwin, Chase, Sample, Iacola. I think Stanley Morgan's still in the offense with them, and Joe Mixon. But however, like I said, that offensive line, brutal. The other thing is the defensive line is really taking a lot of injuries. Sam Hubbard went down with an injury. I don't know when he'll be back. I think he's week to week, though, not done for the season. BJ Hill rolled his ankle. He came back like a couple plays later, but you could tell like he was going off adrenaline, not off of being perfectly fine or anything like that. I think Trey Hendrickson's also been injured. So it's been a rough year for the Bengals because a lot of injuries. Prior to anything coming about for the season, they were favored to be one of the back in that conversation, maybe losing to the Bills or losing to the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl. But they've been so beat up and injured this year. Actually, the entire league with quarterbacks has been so beat up and injured. I mentioned earlier, Corey would know what I'm referring to. And this is for the Cleveland Browns because they had a really strong start to the season. They were able to beat the Bengals 27-3 in week one. They were able to beat Baltimore a couple times, I think. But Deshaun Watson, whose contract is $280 million, all of the money guaranteed for some reason. I still don't get why any team would do that. He got injured with a shoulder injury, and now he's done for the season. So that leaves Pittsburgh and Baltimore atop the division, which is, if you've been in the North for a while, that's like worst case scenario. That's like, if I can make a Game of Thrones reference, that's like if what's that guy's name? If Ramsay had won against Jon Snow and then gone on to take on Winterfell, like even the Night King was a better option than Ramsay as like the last survivor of the North to save the world or to take over the world, rather. So, meaning to say in football, I would call Baltimore the Night King and Pittsburgh the Ramsay of the AFC North. Pittsburgh, I've never been a fan of, just being a Bengals fan. Generally, I'm convinced that if Carson Palmer didn't have his knee ripped out of his leg by a defender on Pittsburgh in 2005, maybe, just maybe, the Bengals go on a run there and could have won the Super Bowl because Pittsburgh ended up winning the Super Bowl. So it's to say Bengals couldn't have. Also, never was a Ben Roethlisberger fan. His off-the-field stuff just, to me, outweighed everything that he did on the field. He was a bit of a weirdo off the field with how he behaved with women. And so I just never respected Pittsburgh for running with that guy and not cutting him loose and trying to start with someone else. And also, every game versus Cincinnati, Pittsburgh's always found a way to win. So it's tough to be respectful of that, I guess, as a fan. So I'm hoping that Pittsburgh does not make it. If Baltimore makes it, I hope they're out in the first round. Let's put it at that. As for the rest of the NFL, the team that everyone is talking about this year is the Detroit Lions. Yes, those Detroit Lions. Bang Bang and Jimmy Tobin's Detroit Lions. They've been long-suffering fans of that franchise for longer than I've been a fan of the Cincinnati Bengals. And to see them be 7-2 right now with like a good stranglehold on the division, if I'm honest, is delightful to see. I'm really hoping that they at least go on a run. That would be cool to see them versus, I don't know, Houston in the final. I don't really like Houston either, but I mean they beat us, so it's weird to think that in that game where they beat us, Joe Burrow was playing on one leg, half a wrist, a lot of injuries on defense, still lost 30-27 with like 3 seconds left in the game. So I mean, hey, happens. That's sports, right? So I mentioned previously that I'm going to be doing this more regularly and the writing more regularly and be around more regularly, try and grow the brand. The other reason for that was that I find when I'm not at work, even at work, nobody wants to hang out with me. Nobody wants to talk to me for the most part. So part of the reason I started this in the beginning was because I could just talk. And if people listen, great. If nobody listened, great too. But I got it out for it. I got whatever I wanted to say off my chest for an hour, and I got to talk about the topics that I love. So I mean, that's what I'm doing now. Is I'm going back to this. I'm going to be doing this every day, whether I have guests or not. I'm just going to keep on recording and see where it takes me. Will I get to 100 episodes by the time Podbean runs out, or will I be at like in the 90s? That's a question to ponder for another day. But while I still have you for another 5 minutes here, the thing that I'm looking forward to the most about this podcast is the fact that I can talk about West Ham and wrestling and the NFL, possibly the Leafs. Whether I have a guest or not, doesn't matter. But West Ham, very, very interesting. It's been a year that I don't know how to describe this year, because last year we went through a similar thing, but they've actually been like good this year, which is kind of confusing. So last year, West Ham qualifies for the Europa Conference League. It's their second year in a row of being in European competition or external competition from the regular league, the Premier League. So last year was a real mess. They essentially just within their regular league, they almost got relegated, but in the Europa Conference League, they were able to go all the way and win the whole thing. So it was like, is it the manager? Is it the players? Like, what's actually happening here that's making them so bad and not be able to basically take the great efforts from the Europa Conference League, which they play every Thursday, to the regular season, which they play on Sundays. Like, that was the big question mystery last year. There was talk because the World Cup was also last year, so there's speculation that some of the guys were super, super tired. The other issue is that David Moyes, who's the manager of West Ham, has a tendency to play like the same 6 or 7 guys. And like he does change guys, but not enough. I'm a big proponent that you should use all 5 substitutes strategically. So, I mean, if the game starts not going your way in the first half, there's no reason you can't make a sub or even 2 subs near the midway point, like say 30 minutes or whatever a quarter of 90 minutes would be. So the reason I bring that up is because Moyes has a tendency, he has like 3 guys that he likes on West Ham's bench, and he doesn't trust the bench otherwise. So you would think that he could change it up 36 minutes in and maybe give a guy a good run. And even, you know what the thing is that he doesn't realize, if I'm honest with you, is that he doesn't realize that if the sub that he brought on earlier is not impacting the game the way he wants, he can sub that guy out for a different dude, or move guys around, or change formation with like different dudes. I mean, the whole point of being a coach isn't to stick to like the same 6, 7 guys, sometimes the same 11 guys, and hope that the other team doesn't figure out your strategy, that you're going with the same roster every single day, and that if we watch tape, we just need to watch tape on 11 guys, not on 25 guys. And it'll be easy for us. The thing that he needs to realize is that his job as the manager is to get the most out of the team. Playing the same 11 guys, whether they're struggling or performing well, it doesn't make a difference. The only thing that matters at the end of the day in sports is winning. It doesn't, like, they'll be down 2-0 going into the second half. As a fan, as maybe another manager, you'd say, you know what? This first half plan wasn't working. I'm going to put like 2 or 3 other guys on and hope for the best, sort of thing. Instead, what he does is he says, you know what? We're down 2-0. I'm going to wait till 75, 80 minutes left in the game and try to win it in the last 15 minutes and hopefully hold on to keep it at 2-0. Like, the strategy is mind-boggling, because if there's analytics that support that say, hey, we can do this and this will help you win the game, then I would understand. But I don't see any analytics that suggest to anyone that would be a possibility. So for that reason, like, a lot of people say that, you know what, he should go because he uses a boring brand of football, soccer football. There's it's the only style that I play. It works against really bad teams. Sometimes good teams fall for it, but ultimately it'll keep us middle of the pack, which is where we want to stay. And for that lack of ambition, like as a fan, I mean, I'm paying for streaming services that cost me $400 a year so that I can watch my shitty teams play. And I'm even like, you know what, man? Like, I am a little invested in the team because I'm literally paying these services so that I can watch the games no matter what. So I want entertaining football, but I also want to see that you have a strategy to win every game. Sometimes he doesn't have the strategy to win the game. He's perfectly content. Like if we're keeping it 0-0 going into the 70th minute, he doesn't have the ambition to be like, hey, let me bring on another striker. Let me bring on a young guy who has a lot to prove and see if he can get the ball up to our forwards and see what happens. Or if he's the forward, see if he can be a second striker and maybe tap in a rebound or something like that. He doesn't have that plan. He's like, hey, it's 70 minutes in, 0-0, game's 90 minutes. I think we can save a point here. Like he cares about 1 point. The whole point of sports is to go for 2 or 3 points, depending on your league. It's not about like if the analytics, the problem that I have with analytics, because a lot of coaches say, you know what, our problem at the end of the year, the problem, if we're honest with you, is our analytics department was not that good. No, the problem is you're still listening to them if you see it's not working. The whole point in sports, as I keep saying over and over again, is to get the win. If you think that the analytics are not working and the guy's having a good shift, let's just say, or he's doing well throughout the game and he's got the most shots on net, pulling him out makes no sense. For instance, I'm not the biggest Saeed Benrahma fan for his soccer ability. I don't know how he is offline or anything like that. So this is strictly just the player that I see on the field, not too keen on. Reason being, I watched this dude at Brentford in the championship, and I get that the championship, which is tier 2, is a completely different animal than the Premier League. But like the way he was running that league with his abilities, he has the power to take over games. There's times where he takes over a game, has the most shots, is actually able to defend a little bit, because that's the big criticism of him, is that he doesn't run back to help the defenders. But Moyes will still pull him off. Like just when he has the momentum, he'll swipe it from under him. So there's 2 problems there. So the reason I don't like Benrahma is because I don't think he takes advantage of his superior skills so much and then comes off inferior, even though he's totally probably the best player on the pitch if you're looking at it talent-wise. So that frustrates me. It's more I don't like him because he's a frustrating player, not because of anything personal or anything like that. I want him to score 20 goals a season because I've seen him score 20 goals in the championship. So I'm like, whenever those guys come up and then do nothing, the following 3 years, I'm like, how is this dude so good in the second tier, but he can't even get like 10 or 15 goals in the Premier League? Makes no sense to me. Same with hockey, with the AHL or guys tearing that league up and then being 4th liners in the NHL. I just don't get it. Anyways, back to my point with West Ham is Moyes is the other reason to blame for guys like Said Benrahma. You're seeing it now with Mohamed Kudus, who they got from Ajax, who he left. Get this. He helps Ajax get out of the Champions League group stage into the regular like Champions League, like not the play-in, and scores a hat trick in his final game, which to me, I would think, okay, he's been on Ajax the last 3 years. They've won the Netherlands title 3 years in a row. I think 12 years overall. And he just scored a hat trick to finish his like tenure there at the club. And Moyes says, hey, he doesn't play the West Ham way. He doesn't play the style that I want. So I'm not going to play him for 5 games as a starter. I'm going to bring him on last couple of minutes of a couple other games. And then if he does well, great. If not, I can say, you know what? He wasn't my decision. He was the board's decision. And when Kudus has come on, he's always had an impact. He's already got 3 or 4. I think he's already got 5 goals. He's only been on 13 of the 18 appearances. Since he's been on with the club. He's got 5 goals in like 18 appearances, which is unbelievable. So now they're actually starting him, which is smart. But Moyes is like, no, I made that decision. It's like, you didn't make that decision. He forced your hand. Go back to Sai Benrahma. Benrahma should be able to score at least 5 or 6 goals, but sometimes he only gets like 3 a year, and he's been with us for 3-4 years now. So it's kind of frustrating because I'm just like, this dude has so much talent. He's whenever he gets the ball, you think something's going to happen. Like, you think for sure he's going to score or he's going to get a really nice assist, one of the two. And for the most part, this year it's happened, but last year just was not happening at all. I mean, I get to the point last year, all they cared about midway through was to sell Declan Rice to the highest bidder, which was Arsenal. Thank you, Imran, if you're listening to this. But it's got to be about wins too. It shouldn't be just about one player. I mean, Sullivan, who's the owner of West Ham, is so in love with making money that he'd sell guys for like $4 million if 4 million euros if it meant like he got the 4 million. The guy's such a scumbag in the sense that like he takes the money that they get from sales, puts it into businesses that he say belong to the lenders. But get this, he's the lender of the club. Like, he's literally the loan shark giving them the money in the movies, hypothetically. So it's literally like he's filling his own pocket 2 ways. Anyways, long story short, if West Ham ever won the championship of the Premier League as being the best team in the league, firstly, he'd have to sell the team at that point because he would get like offers in the billions, maybe like $5 to $10 billion for West Ham. Like, he'd be insane not to take that money and say, no, I love West Ham, when he never has. Secondly, if he doesn't sell the club, he can sell all those players and then like rebuild from scratch the way that he always does. But he can make like a ton of profit. Like, I really think if West Ham ever wins the Premier League, firstly, I'll go crazy and probably be in a loony bin. It'll be bigger to me than if the Leafs win the Stanley Cup. Yes, I'm saying that, which is insane too, if you know me. But if West Ham win the Premier League, he can, the 105 million quid he got for Declan Rice will look like pennies compared to how much he can sell basically every other player on the team. Even Jared Bowen. Like, I'm convinced Jared Bowen, who signed a 7-year deal here and wanted to stay, not like Rice, who did not want to stay. That part doesn't get talked about him enough. But Bowen signed a 7-year extension. I think by the end of it, he's going to lead the team in goals, assists, hopefully trophies, and hopefully he's the guy who scores the winning goal, as he did in the Conference League, to win the Conference League championship. So, to me, the amount of money Sullivan's gonna be able to get for Bowen if West Ham ever wins the Premier League and Bowen still's in his like good years, like 27 to 32, which is the prime typically. It'll look like peanuts for Rice. Like, I bet you, this is crazy to say, but I think if West Ham wins the Premier League and it's thanks to a guy like Jared Bowen, I bet you can get like 200 million for him, even 250 million. I know that's crazy, but like, it's my podcast and that's my prediction. But yeah, so that's it for today. I really enjoyed coming back talking to you guys, and hopefully people listen to this. I really enjoyed it. So this should be up shortly. I'm going to try and post every day on Podbean, Spotify, and possibly YouTube as well, to put the episodes up. However, in terms of like social media, I'm probably only going to post once a week and be like, check out these shows. Eric solo, catching up with the fan base, discussing life and things. Then like Eric goes to the movies with High Five Tom. E at the show with High Five Tom. would be next. So probably tomorrow, and so on and so forth. And then if you're listening to uh, any of these, I'll probably post them on a weekly basis on social media, just because I'm doing this more as a point to keep busy. I'm not really interested in promotion or money or anything like that. Like if people listen to this, amazing. If not, I mean, it doesn't make a difference to me. Uh, One last thing I'd like to say, if you noticed before, I hadn't really promoted the '90s nostalgia hour. Unfortunately, during the break that I took of the last 2 months, the show also decided to call it quits. Um, I'm always free, but I was going through a move, and I bought a new car and a bunch of like in person life stuff. So on my end, I couldn't really like I could have made it work, but like it would have taken a lot of like it would have had to be really late, like 9:30, 10 o'clock, as opposed to our regular time. So timing didn't really work. For Bauerhausen, uh, life update, he got married to his girlfriend, which is great. He seems to be in a better place. We were all going through various life things at the time, and he from when I've talked to him, he seems to be in a good place. He might actually pop back on the pot on Nattering with E from time to time if we can coordinate it, and we'll see if we can get SJ too. Maybe we'll get them both on at the same time. SJ also uh, decided '90s nostalgia was not for her anymore. Um, like I said, we were all going through life things. Her stuff was keeping her very busy, so she decided that she didn't want to do that either. So, like I said, maybe we'll get them both on for one podcast of like why did it end or something if we want to do something like that. And I might even have no, I'll have SJ on for sure for some solo podcasts. We're gonna try and get some stuff going with watching movies and then doing movie reviews. E at the show, for instance, like Nattering with E. Nattering with E goes to the movies or something like that would be the name of the episode, and then we just talk about like The Puncher, or like uh, the Mighty Ducks, or the Three Stooges, or something like that. And then we'll have other people on from whenever schedules work to talk music, even wrestling, hopefully West Ham at some point, Leafs with Joe, and possibly with a couple other buddies. And I want to talk about like TV shows too. So if you'd love to get on the show or are free to hop on, we'll have Paul on too at some point again for music and wildness. That was such a funny episode. I love it. And yeah, it'll be great. So hopefully you come along for the ride and get ready for more episodes or a lot of recordings. So it might even be they might not even be long episodes, like this has gone 47 minutes. So some may be 3 hours, some may be 10 minutes. Who knows? As long as we're doing it, that's all that matters, right? So stay cool. Me, Ivy Bone, and I love you. Ivy Bone, the dog, and I love you. Ivory Dog, and I love you. Be great. Check out all the other podcasts you listen to and tell them that Nattering with E adores them. And cheers.